and in theory it should be up. I'm just going to double check. And we
I'm
are
only sticking here
live.
for. I'm only going to stick in here for just a little bit because I am going to I'm gonna call my uncle, let him know about a severe weather event, and then I'm gonna go to Sunset.
Perfect.
I think so. Yeah.
So how strong do you think the system is right now?
I think maybe 80 knots ish. It doesn't look very strong, 75 knots
Yeah.
ish.
Now, why isn't
Doesn't
it
look
like too strong right now? Like, why isn't it
mainly dry
getting to
air.
right now? Dry air.
Dry air, and it emerged a little weaker than I expected it to.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a way to
But
show
yeah,
the dry
it
air that's impacting it?
microwave. There was a
Microwave?
couple
Okay.
microwave images earlier this morning that showed the dry air being an issue pretty clearly. Here's a good one for you,
Here, I got it
and you'll
right
see
here. So which one of these frames do you think?
I mean, look, all of these are not great. Well, let's face it, none of these frames really show great core formation here.
That's because
As you can see, kind of
it's not really
fragments.
solid. It's not a solid ring at all. It's
Yeah, and there's a lot
broken
of
up.
banding going on around it. Some of the banding, which is actually deeper convection than the inner core itself, which is a notoriously bad configuration for strengthening.
Right over here,
And
you got all this is what you're talking about, right?
I mean, just banding all around. You can see
Yeah.
the whole banding expanse is pretty energized here.
Yep.
So generally, it's a little bit hard to get that deeper inner core convection that releases more latent heat and deepens the center of the system
Yeah.
pressure. So
So do you think it still has time to intensify? I mean, it only has like around an hour,
no,
but you don't think it's going to be able to get to Cat 2?
I don't think it's going to be able to get to Cat 2. I don't think after it's going to be able to get to Cat 2 because this system is going to lose a lot over land.
And I can show that by showing the forecast here. Which one should I show? The H-Wharf or the halves?
Half is good.
All
Halves.
right.
I always use half over H
Mm-hmm.
worth typically.
So it makes landfall at around the 970s millibars range, and it looks
Seems
like
about
it. Oh,
accurate.
whoops. There we go. It looks like it emerges in the upper 990s. Very disorganized. It's a very sloppy system. Instead of it being all mostly tight, it really expands, and it's just this broad circle of just winds circling around
There's
in here.
not really there's not really any concentrated inner core
Yep.
anymore. It's even Hond was considerably more organized, and this is expected to be after reemerging.
Yeah.
So that should kind of go to show what land interaction can do to a system. Land interaction can both tighten and broaden systems, and this is a clear case of land probably broadening this badly.
I saw the Joint Typhoon Warning Center was forecasting it to be 60 knots after landfall, or after landfall in Madagascar, so they could be forecasting a 65 knot secondary peak. You think that's possible?
Barely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would need to be pretty organized. I mean, I'll just say this: shear also increases after Madagascar. This is going to have a pretty rough, or not Madagascar, after Mozambique. This is going to have a pretty rough stretch here as it goes through Mozambique. Loses its RMW, radius of maximum wind. It loses that.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of
I see
has.
shears just. It looks like it actually kind of lowers slightly and then skyrockets again towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, even if it lowers, it's so broad. There's nothing
Yeah.
to tighten it.
Also, it's showing that like it gets more into a moist environment and then goes to more drier air.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, the moist environment is the fact that it's its own moisture pool per se.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just that broad. It's not.
Yeah, but that helps fight against the dry air, correct?
Well, I mean, if you're sampling, the problem is they're probably just sampling the monsoonal expanse of the system,
Yeah.
which is why mid-level RH goes up. But it's really not much more moist of an environment. It's just, and actually, having a super broad moisture expanse is notoriously not great for getting or for fighting off dry air intrusions if you have a ton of banding. If it's just all banding, then basically you have some moist, some dry, some moist, some dry, some, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, kind
kind
of
of,
like what's going on
it's
right
not
now.
really
Like, are you talking about like how there's dry air in here, kind of been trying to entrain in, and just
worse.
and the
Worse.
yeah,
So yeah, like it's a lot easier to fend off dry air intrusions when you have a solid ring, when you have
core.
a solid ring of moist, and then around that is dry. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
this is
when
just
a
all mixed
system,
together.
yeah, when a system, there's just some bands of moisture, and then there's some drier air in there, and some moisture, then some drier air. And even if it's not that much drier, it's still enough to where it's like it's really hard to completely moisten that whole environment. The
Yeah,
thermodynamic environment will be very marginal. So
yeah,
you won't see massive bursts. You'll see you'll see kind of popcorning convection around the system at a pretty broad radius
yeah. I've
after it
noticed that happening for like the past, I don't know, 48 hours or so. The popcorn convection.
Yeah, just showing that the
Everything's
environment's already
firing.
not super moist, and it's and it'll only be worse after it reemerges for sure.
Yeah. Now, what is the H Wharf showing for it? 960 is millibars landfall, so that's already too high.
And look what it reemerges looking like.
Yeah, completely like a broad mess.
Yeah, there's just no.
But also, it has it reemerging slower. This is like in day 5, it finally reemerges. So it looks a little bit
So that might
slower.
be due to the fact that the H-Wharf is a really strong ridge or something, just keeping it sitting over land,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
isn't.
this is a while ago. This is like a day old. My bad. That model run.
Yeah,
That makes more sense.
but either way, it will take a while to reemerge. It's not going to be a quick one.
Yeah.
And this is a case where the system might get like it'll still be dumping a lot of rain, but because it's so broad and there's not a ton of deep convection everywhere, the
hmm
rain totals are limited quite a bit because of that.
Speaking of rainfall totals, I'm gonna take a look at that. What it's looking like.
Compared to if this was like a robust monsoonal making landfall, like a system with an organized inner core.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shows widespread areas of like of at least 100 millimeters, like all throughout this region for most of
Yeah,
Mozambique,
which makes sense, but it's not
Malawi. Yeah.
super high. It's not like maxing out the scale or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Just that it's a lot of areas getting moderate amounts of rain. Some areas getting upwards of like 300 millimeters, just depending on where the system goes and where the heaviest rain is. But really, it's just a broad amounts of moderate rain, not really targeting a specific area. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it could, probably, as it reemerges, targeting the coast of Mozambique down here. I don't know what the other models are showing. The American model is showing somewhat of a similar scenario, because by the time it's over the waters again, it's going to be firing up a lot more convection and thunderstorms, correct?
Potential water, yeah.
So the areas along the coast would be getting heavier rainfall. Same with the German model, showing, again, heavier rainfall where it's impacting right now. It lightens up as it tries to reemerge in the Mozambique Channel, and then when it does that, it fires a whole bunch more thunderstorms, and right along the coast is where you get the heaviest rainfall totals. Showing upwards of 400 millimeters in some spots.
Yeah. Now after this system as well, the focus shifts into the open Indian Ocean again.
hmm
But
Well,
it
first I
seems
want to
like,
focus on the Madagascar potential
oh
impacts.
yeah,
Then we can go long range, because we've pretty much covered the Mozambique thread in terms of rainfall. Now, like, what about Madagascar? Do you think it's going to actually strike Madagascar?
um, even if it does, strike should be used broadly.
Yeah,
That term, it's hard to kind of justify if it strikes Madagascar because yeah, the low pressure center could go over Madagascar like
yeah,
that, but yeah. as you can see, it's sheared by that point. It's very broad still, and
Mm-hmm.
if there are going to be any impacts, it's mostly just going to be rainfall that maybe is squeezed out through like orographic lift. I'm not
Yeah.
really too there's not really too much severe wind or surge or any other impact of other than rainfall for
Mm-hmm.
Madagascar,
I'd give it like
unless something
a
drastic
yeah.
changes.
I'd give it like a 75% chance probably of hitting somewhere in Madagascar, and like a low chance that it's gonna deviate a little bit more to the south and miss. That is still a
Yeah,
possibility, but regardless, I feel like the southern part of Madagascar should get impacts, this general area, and then possibly more north.
impacts, but not super severe
Hmm.
impacts. Not anything crazy.
And this system over here, Ivoni, that should avoid okay, how, Rodriguez, I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, okay, thank you. And avoid Mauritius and Reunion. So that should really avoid them, right? Doesn't seem like
Yeah,
it's gonna
easily.
impact them. And now, what's the long
And if you
term?
look at the system,
Oh, sorry, what?
okay, so long term in the Indian Ocean,
Hmm.
I would say even though model support is pretty low across the whole basin for anything developing after,
Yeah,
SSTs are very warm. SSTs are very warm, and the Southwest Indian Ocean is notorious as a basin for spawning random systems, just very random systems.
like almost out of nowhere,
It's
right?
done it, yeah. A couple times this year we've seen it happen, and model support jumps onto them at the last second.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like that again. Shear's pretty low. Waters are very, very warm across the entire basin, other than Mozambique Channel now. Channel is going to be pretty much shut down, but the rest of the basin will be very warm and ready for more tropical activity.
Yeah, here's a look at the sea
Um,
surface
over
temperatures,
the next month, as you can see, yeah, very warm.
especially in the western part of the Southwest Indian Ocean.
Yeah, it's so far. It seems like it's moved a little bit north. Like the main corridor of very warm waters has moved a little bit north as
Yeah.
the seasons start to change, but it's still the same idea.
Hmm. Of course,
Southwest
there's
Indian Ocean very rarely ever gets this warm, so
yeah, and of course the very warm waters are just off the coast of northwestern Australia.
yeah, those are mainly due to a I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, the
Ningaloo.
yep, that one.
Ningaloo Nino, yeah. You can see in the long range, just kind of noise.
Yeah,
Not really.
not really any signals.
I
Uh,
guess I could take a look at EPS and see what the general pattern looks like across the basin. Because that can give me a good indication as
hmm.
of like
What should I check for that on the EPS? What dynamic?
200 millibar wind, 200 millibar wind shear. Yeah, it looks pretty much just like the usual Southwest Indian Ocean business. Just broad westerly flow to the north of the basin and
Hmm.
easterly flow. So any system that does develop with this upper level pattern will generally have probably a pretty good environment.
Okay.
But yeah, let
Oh,
me just see really quick. Um, I'll take a look at some
oh, and
MSLPs here.
the storm, I forgot its name, Jude, should have a jet interaction, right, as it's headed southeast.
That's the only thing that could help to kind of tighten it.
Yeah,
But I don't trust that it'll be enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, how weak do you think it's gonna be as it reemerges? Officially, or
Uh,
the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is
Borderline
forecasting
TDTS.
35 knots. So, tropical storm.
Yeah, borderline TDTS.
Okay. So, you think it will emerge as a storm?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It may not.
Yeah, I feel like there's a possibility it just becomes as a like tropical depression or remnant low.
Remnant low, I don't think so, but I think
Hmm.
TD.
It just
It would
depends on
need to
how long it stalls
really,
over land.
yeah. it would need to really sit over land to emerge as a remnant.
Yeah. Now, how long do you think it will take until the center moves over land, as in a landfall? Because I thought it was going to be within the next
Um,
hour.
yeah, I mean, I would think. Hard to tell. The center is right now, based on that imagery, it is about
Would it
a
be here?
4. Yes, I think.
Okay. Because it was kind of confusing. Like the eye briefly popped
Kind of
out.
sitting there for a little bit. It's kind of sitting there for a little bit, but it's not going to continue doing that.
I mean, it sped up, like you said earlier. It was going faster than expected, so landfall was earlier than expected, or supposed to be.
Yeah. So it seems like it's one of those annoying cases where it gets right up to land and then it
And then
sits
it
there for a little
stalls,
bit.
yeah. Which, I mean, that's a problem for rainfall rates, of course, right along the coast.
Yeah, that is a pretty big concern for that. Yeah, especially along the coast. Everywhere else, like it adds to the rainfall, but it's really along the coast where the impact is felt.
Yeah. The American model is showing upwards of almost 400 millimeters right along the coast. That is going to be around 15 inches of rain, possibly.
Yeah, it's gracious.
There's a town called Mozambique. I did not know that.
A
Mozambique,
town
Mozambique.
called Mozambique, and
I think.
God,
I think that's just the translation.
wait,
I don't
where
know.
is it? Is it
It's
hitting Mozambique? Mozambique?
almost. Here's satellite. Well, hold on. Satellite. Oops. There's satellite.
That's
Yeah, there's
insane.
Mozambique, Mozambique. I think that's what it's called. Mozambique, Mozambique. Yeah, okay, wait, no. That's a country. Mozambique. Town, Mozambique. Doesn't really say it. It is. It has a different name over here.
Hmm.
Mocambique.
That's weird that it translates to Mozambique in
Yeah,
Mozambique. That definitely interesting.
yeah. There's some lightning. Oh, wow, jeez, yeah. The thunderstorms all over here to the southwest of the storm. That banding that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Very powerful thunderstorms. And also, there's the occasional lightning strike around the core, looks like. Like there was one that just occurred in the eastern part, right in here. So I mean, it's not great at all. It's not doing that well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's just thunderstorms all around it. There's one on the northern side of it, very powerful thunderstorm. One to the southwest, and then you have little bursts to the north of it. Again, that popcorn convection, like you were saying, just burst up all around the storm. And you just have a small
Yeah.
burst to the east.
The problem is that when you lose the inner core, you only have that popcorn convection left.
Yeah. Let's see.
So,
Dirk Steve's in chat. He says, I was fully expecting to wake up to an organized storm, but it looks like crap. And that's because of the dry
yeah, I
air,
was
right?
expecting it to be a little bit better too. Yeah, I was expecting it to be a little bit better too.
Yeah.
But
But of course, dry air is gonna, thankfully, try and weaken it, or like try and prevent it from being as strong. But I mean, still, this is doing pretty decent in my opinion. Like Category 1, almost Category 2, that's decent for the limited amount of time it had.
yeah, not too bad.
For like how it emerged into the Mozambique Channel, I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
If it had another 24 hours, how strong would you think it would get at that point?
Uh, Given its appearance, probably category 3 or 4.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's kind of good news that it's sped up slightly, so it's not able to intensify as much as we first thought it could.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you'd be looking at, yeah, it speaks for itself.
How high of storm surge do you think there would be? 'Cause the winds aren't really
If it,
too strong, I guess,
if
on
it
the
were to ever, like, how storm surge do you think there is now, or if
how
it
strong
had
there
24
there will
hours?
peak at right now.
Oh, maybe like a meter and a half,
Yeah, and that would be
2 meters.
mainly towards the core of the system.
Yeah,
So right around these areas, I don't
no
know what
more
these
than
areas
definitely
are.
no more than 2 meters.
Yeah, so areas like Lunga, Lumbo, the area of Mozambique. Those areas are going to be getting the higher storm surge totals. Whereas farther south, down towards Angochi, shouldn't get as high of storm surge, but still just some small water rises, especially I guess along the river. I don't know where's the most
Yeah,
populated. I think Nacala, that area, I think that's pretty populated. Yeah, that's more of a, I guess, kind of metro area. Fortunately, it doesn't really seem to be like the wind direction isn't really going there. So can I? No, I can't show that. It's kind of flowing out of there, so they shouldn't really have to worry too much about storm surge. Yeah, Nacala is the. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's the capital. They might have to honestly worry about storm surge over the next like 6 hours or so as the storm begins to move inland, because that's when you have the winds blowing into the river or into that little bay area. But it shouldn't be too much of a
yeah.
concern.
I'm, I'm probably gonna hop off here now. In any case,
Oh, before you do, can you tell me about how 90B or X90B is doing this storm right here?
it just looks like any other Arabian Sea disturbance.
Yeah.
Not
So you
not
don't think
great.
it's going to form? It's just mainly like a rainfall threat for
Yeah.
Sri Lanka and southern India. Well, thank you, Crazy, for your help.
So for I'm assuming like southern India, that where it's moving towards.
Yeah. Yep. I
Okay.
mean, it seems like just moderate amounts of rain. It shouldn't be too much. Here, I'll take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's only showing upwards of around maybe 100 millimeters. That's like 4 inches for us, so not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Crazy, for your help.
You're very
Always nice
welcome.
to have you in the stream. So I'll talk to you later. We might do another stream later
All
this
right.
week, so I'll see if you're available then as well.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. All right.
All right, talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya. All right, Dark Steve says that would be weird if it hit Mozambique. Mozambique, yeah. I mean, and I feel like that's just more so a translation mistake. I don't think that's actually what it's named. Okay, so let's see. What are the larger towns in Mozambique? Looks like Nampula is one of them. I think I can kind of check on here to see where the lights are. Yeah, Nampula, Nacala, and where's the capital? I guess it's. Oh, there it is, Maputo. That's the one. Okay. So the major areas seem to be Nacala and Nampula. Those are the main areas getting impacts. So I'll cover those areas first. So Nacala, over the next, I'm gonna go down to roughly 3 days time because that's roughly the amount of time you're going to be getting impacts from the system. The European model suggesting roughly 200 millimeters of rain. Of course, could be higher amounts. The American model, I think that's the one that's showing the higher totals, 300 millimeters, maybe upwards of 400 millimeters if you're unlucky. The German model showing less amounts of rainfall, but showing you all getting kind of a target, around 150 millimeters of rain. So varying amounts, 150 to 400 millimeters possible. And that's, of course, additional rainfall amounts. That isn't what's already fallen. And going towards, already forgot the name, sorry guys. Uh, Nampula. I thought I saw that. Oh, there it is. Okay. Nampula, and it depends. The European model, again, this is the one showing very broad amounts of rainfall all across Mozambique, Malawi, and parts of far eastern Zimbabwe. So it's showing the areas getting around 150 millimeters of rain. The American model showing slightly higher at around 250 millimeters, and the German model showing a light amount of 75 millimeters. So really 75 to I'd say 250 millimeters max in that area over the next 3 days. So those are the areas getting impacts in the near term, and I will cover what else it's impacting. I don't know how to pronounce this one. Quelimane and Mokuba or Mokaba. Okay, so for the European model, suggesting roughly around 200 millimeters of rain for Makuba, and the American model suggesting roughly 100, and the German model roughly suggesting 100. So 100 to 200 millimeters of rain possible there, and Quelimane. That area, the European model is suggesting it getting kind of out of the bullseye, roughly 250 millimeters. American model under 100 millimeters, and the German model around 150. So really 75 to possibly 255 or 250 millimeters of rain is possible in those areas. Now wind, that is going to be something that's hard to determine. Wind gust, I can probably tell you that based on the model right now on how strong of winds Nacala could get. Right now it seems like roughly a hurricane force gust or cyclone force gust. That would be roughly around 130 kilometer an hour, probably max wind gusts there. Of course, the farther inland you go, the weaker the winds. Over the next 2.5 hours or so, Niamilo should get around 100 kilometer an hour wind gust. Of course, going further in time, maybe around 7-8 hours. Nampula getting around 90 kilometers an hour wind gust. Again, the wind gusts don't really stop for Nacala, or at least lower, until almost the next 12 hours. Then it starts to lower, but still very gusty conditions, around 80 kilometer an hour. Of course, the mountain ranges are going to get higher wind gusts as you go up in elevation. You get stronger winds. And then looking towards Mokuba, I don't know if it will show it because this only goes out 48 hours. Let's see if it actually shows it. No, it doesn't really show too much because by that point the storm's pretty much torn up. The American model showing pretty much the same thing, so really only like 50 kilometers an hour maximum winds probably. So those are kind of the impacts that are expected at least within the next 3 days. Now if we go longer range and we go towards 5 days, this is when we can go towards kind of the Madagascar impacts, because those in Madagascar could get impacts from the storm. Now this is the next 5 days, so this gets kind of cut off over here because the storm should be located around here by that point, maybe over here, so just bear that in mind. That's if it's showing like the rain stops right before you, it could expand farther, so just keep that in mind. So areas in Madagascar, trying to look at population areas that are pretty large, doesn't really seem like there's much. Main area that's going to get impacts is Talaria, Talayar, Talayara. You all there could get roughly the European model suggesting upwards of 100, maybe 125 millimeters of rain. American model showing it potentially missing you all and only getting roughly 50 millimeters of rain. And then the German model suggesting roughly 100 millimeters, so really 50 to 125 millimeters, at least within the next 5 days. Doesn't seem like there's really any large population areas as we go farther inland. Yeah, that's pretty much the rainfall impacts you all could see. Wind impacts will vary largely depending on how the storm evolves as it moves back over the waters into the Mozambique Channel. Yeah, areas like Maputo shouldn't really see impact from the storm. That's just their own typical thunderstorms. So yeah, let's take a look at some of these surface observations if we have any. Okay, looking at the storm right now. Okay, so we do have some observations near I forget what this area is called. My apologies. Lumbo, getting around. That's 18 miles an hour. So let me translate that towards kilometers an hour. There we go, roughly 30 kilometers an hour. Wind gusts are probably upwards of 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. The airport by Nacala getting roughly 22 kilometer an hour winds. Let's take a look at the pressure they're getting. 1009 millibars, and that was as of 2 hours ago. This area in Lumbo getting around 1009 millibars. So this is a very tight pressure gradient. This was also 2 hours ago. So 2 hours ago, the storm was farther away. I'm going to kind of see what pressure the models are showing that they should be getting. So here, if we go back 2 hours, I don't really fully understand how they're getting a pressure that high because elevation would lower it. So I don't know, maybe the storm is slightly weaker. Right now it is estimated at 975 millibars. So areas over there should be getting pressures of at least the 990s, maybe even lower. Pressure is just helping us determine how strong the storm is. So that's why surface observations like these are helpful. Nampula Airport got upwards of 40 kilometers an hour. And yeah, wind gusts of upwards of 50 to 60 kilometers an hour are possible there. And Gochi getting 13 kilometer an hour winds, not bad at all. But yeah, you can just see how expansive this cyclone is. You can see the wind direction over here, how it all follows this, even over here, down over by Mayotte. And yeah, I mean there's a lot of cloud cover pretty much everywhere in here. We don't have radar, so that doesn't really help us determine if it's raining or whatnot, but we can see thunderstorms here. Down over here, I don't know if I can see what that province is named. No, I can't. But areas all throughout over here should be aware of thunderstorms impacting their area. Do we have sound? Oh, thank you, other follower. That place called Mozambique in Mozambique is actually a place name, an island in Mozambique with its country's name. Other examples include Luxembourg capital city and Luxembourg and Belize City, Belize. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that makes more sense. So it's not really a translation mistake. Thank you for that. So this kind of shows us the cloud tops. As storms grow, they'll get. Let me turn that off. As storms grow in height, temperatures begin to cool, and that's what allows us to see this kind of imagery from space. We can see how cold the tops of the clouds are. And so this kind of helps us see what storms are growing the best. As you can see, wherever the lightning is, it's always where the storms are the strongest. And of course, there's not much lightning over here because the tropical cyclone isn't really supposed to be a thunderstorm machine. It's just supposed to be more so just a stratoform rain. So right in here, though, we can see a good amount of what we call convection, or the clouds, over here on the eastern side. but it's not really wrapping around fully. You can see it's kind of missing a slot on the western side. Yeah, I mean, decent thunderstorms over here, moving over Moma, down in eastern Mozambique. Doesn't really seem like too much is impacting Madagascar at the moment. It's really just Mozambique. Malawi could also be getting impact from the storm, mainly the eastern and southern parts. All right. Weather Follower says, great job on your 2017 animation. Thank you. It was great. Can't wait for other seasons. Perhaps Southwest Indian Ocean Basin season. I don't know. I really do stuff that I believe people will watch. I don't really know how many people will watch a Southwest Indian Ocean season. I thought about animating this year's season, but I don't really think too many people will watch. So I'd rather put that time and effort on other things. And taking a look at surface observations, there's a report over here of 72 km/h sustained winds. So that's roughly, sorry guys, I don't really know how strong that is, but the system itself right here, if we take a look at Avande, or Avani, it is looking pretty organized. It is quite sheared. You will notice that most of these clouds are to the south of the center, so it's kind of like the clouds, basically, the convection are being blown to the south of it, so it's not too organized, but it is trying to wrap some decent banding around the storm. And yeah, it is expected to maintain intensity over the next 24 hours before then gradually weakening. It should maintain intensity slightly as it moves towards Rodrigues, and then begin to weaken and turn into a post-tropical cyclone when it turns away. Doesn't seem like any impacts will be felt there on those islands. And we also have what was 90B over here that's beginning to move towards Sri Lanka. We got a decent amount of ships moving around underneath it, showing various or sustained winds of 40 kilometers an hour, maybe wind gusts of upwards of 50 to 60 kilometers an hour. Of course, there is thunderstorm activity in the system, and this will be continuing to move west northwestwards, and impacting Sri Lanka and the far southern edges of India. We can kind of show you all the impacts they could get. Over the next 5 days, it really only seems like areas are going to get roughly 50, 25 to maybe 75, 80 millimeters of rain. That's over the next 5 days. American model, same thing. And the German model, same thing, just showing less rainfall totals, like 20 millimeters in some areas. Thankfully, seems like it's going to be not really impacting those areas as much. The Maldives are going to get impacts, the northern edges of them, but not really too bad. Only roughly a 10% chance, maybe less, that it actually develops into a tropical cyclone. Okay, so these thunderstorms by Pemba should not be a concern at this moment. These are going to be moving southeast, east-southeastwards. We can see that on this imagery right here. If I go to our infrared imagery, we'll see these storms fire up over here, and then they start moving this direction. So they aren't really a concern right now. This is what we call kind of popcorn convection, meaning these are just thunderstorms that pop up pretty much all throughout the storm. Areas that should be concerned, though, of potential flash flooding are Moma right now. They're getting hit by a pretty decently strong thunderstorm. This will continue pushing northwestwards. It could weaken out, but areas a little bit farther northwestward should be kind of prepared for potentially gusty conditions and some minor flooding. And also there's another potentially developing thunderstorm trailing right behind it. Charger Animation says, "Hi, hello, how are you doing?" Storm is taking its time to make landfall. It was going pretty fast earlier, now it's kind of slowed down slightly. I don't know if it will make landfall within the next 20 minutes. This imagery is out of date by around 20 minutes, so keep that in mind. I doubt it's going to make landfall within the next 20 minutes. I was kind of worried it was going to make landfall a little bit too quick. And we can kind of see where the center is. The center is roughly 38 kilometers away from land, and it has moved. I don't know how fast it's really moved. But yeah, it's kind of just stalled. Here, I'll check. It is around, moved around 120, 120 divided by, let's see, 6, so roughly 20 kilometers an hour, so it's possibly 2 hours away from making a potential landfall. Well, making a landfall, not potentially. It is going to strike Mozambique. Dark Steve says, "If you do animate the Southwest Indian Ocean season, I'd watch it considering how prolific the season was." Yeah, I mean, I know that the people who are into weather will watch it, but not really the general public is the concern. Yeah, areas that should be somewhat concerned about winds are going to be areas like Nampula and Nimilo and Nikala. Those are the main general areas. Of course, areas along the coast, Moma and Angochi, should be worrying about somewhat gusty conditions. And areas farther inland shouldn't really have to worry about that too much. It's going to be weakening pretty quickly as it moves over land. We can show you all by showing you all this. You can see how strong those winds are. The greens are your gusty storm gale force winds, and it doesn't really impact on shore at all. It's just, it stays over the water. The storm's not strong enough to really deliver those winds further inland. But of course, gusty conditions will be occurring for areas in Mozambique, just breezy. And then, of course, gale force winds are possible in southern Madagascar. What's this? There you go. Yep, completely falls apart. Rainfall totals from the HWRF. Want to run? I'll take a look at that. Oh, whoops. Yeah, this is kind of showing it being a little bit in a too moist of an environment. It isn't really that good. Oh, I'm going to show the halves run. That should be better. No, same kind of problem. Isn't really that moist. And of course, as it's heading towards Madagascar, that's when dry air is going to really start to impact it, coming out of Mozambique and wrapping around the system. So that could kind of prevent intensification. And also, it kind of gets pretty elongated, as you see, thanks to a jet interaction. Jet interactions typically strengthen storms, but it's kind of too much of a mess right now. I don't think it's going to help too much. So yeah, rainfall totals. So of course, areas along the coast are going to get the highest rainfall totals, right along here in northern Mozambique. Then it kind of lessens, but areas in Malawi and parts of southeastern Zimbabwe could get impacts from this system. And of course, potentially, Madagascar could miss the heaviest rainfall totals Not really the western side, though. Alright, just gonna check something. Uh, okay, let's see. So just keep in mind, imagery doesn't update that frequently. This updates every 15 minutes, so we can't really tell much of like rapid changes going on in the system. The main things that we can see though are the thunderstorms. Like in 15 and 30 minutes ago, there was nothing there, and then in 30 minutes later, we got thunderstorms bursting up. So really, more thunderstorms could be bursting west of there. It's hard to tell. I mean, the system did try and develop an eye briefly, but it was way too small of a core and really not an organized one at all, so it kind of failed that. It's only really wrapping around the eastern side. You can see as the eastern side fades away on here, the only thing that really fires back up is the eastern side again. Right over here. This is where you're going to find most likely the strongest winds of the storm, so as the storm moves over lands, areas along the coast then would be getting the strongest winds. So areas like Dakala could be experiencing these strong winds for like 12 hours before they start to weaken, just because they're right along the coast. Wow, I didn't realize how big of a... Wow, Johannesburg is huge in South Africa. Wasn't really expecting all those lights. I really do like the city lights feature though. Helps me determine where like the highest populations are. Blantyre, that is an area that could get impacts from the storm. I can cover that area. I don't think they're going to get too much of rainfall. The European model showing 100, almost 200 millimeters. American model showing around 125. The German model also 125. So 125 to 200 millimeters are possible there. That's over the next 5 days, so just keep that in mind. Something I am curious about looking at with all of you are the live cameras in Australia from the flooding. Since it is daylight there, we should be able to see it, so I'm just going to pull this up. It's not daylight yet. Okay, in the past 24 hours, it's continued to rise. Oh, whoa, the whole thing was flooded. Wow. Sorry about that. I'm gonna take a picture of this. This was pretty insane. Oh, whoops, wrong picture. So just trying to get a picture of it so I can post it online later. So that's one of the live cameras. This one over here. These are all around Logan City. Wow, that has risen dramatically. Okay. It was not that bad earlier. Let's see how much it rose. I thought it was almost like peaked at that point. I didn't think it would rise that high. Okay, there's the rain. Well, just continuous hours of heavy rainfall. Okay, yeah, now that makes more sense, but man, that's almost covering the bridge. All right, let's take a look at another one. I'm trying to find out where one, or like which one of these were the best camera. Okay, this one never really flooded the area, so. Oh, the camera went down. Okay. I wonder why that is. Looking at another camera. These two are going to be the really bad ones. Wow. Here's 24 hours ago right now, and you can just see it gradually rise. More rain. For hours. Just rain. Each one of these frames is an hour apart. Then we got sunrise. Wow. That's just a crazy difference in 24 hours. That rose by like over 2 meters. Like 3 meters at this point. Yeah, the whole road's gone at that point. The whole road's submerged. Now looking at the residential area. Let's see how bad this got. I'm kind of... Okay, so this whole area was not like this. This was 24 hours ago when it started to entrain. And this already rose by like almost 3 meters at this point. So we can take a look at how bad it got. Well, basically the whole fence is covered at that point. Oh wow, okay, now at that point it's going down. Yeah, that's not as bad. I'm going to just take a picture of it when it was at its peak. Right before it gets dark. Okay, let me get that. Because, man, that is devastating. It rose like 4 or 5 meters. Wow. Oh, and I can actually show you all the where this is located at. If I go to coordinates, see if I can find that. Yep, right over here. And so just to give you an idea of how badly flooded this is, there's the fence, by the way. There's the 1 meter mark on the, okay, well, hold on. There's the, okay, so you can kind of see the height of the fence versus everywhere else. Like, it's about as high as this fence right here. So you can see how badly flooded this whole area is. So that home's definitely taking on some water on the lower level. I hope they're, like, prepared for this. But yeah, Alfred caused all of this. So just looking again at it. That sign right over here is almost completely covered. That's how bad it is. So you can just imagine this whole area completely underwater. Okay, see, 24 hours ago is when it started taking on water. This is kind of how bad I thought it would get, like the worst. I never imagined it to rise like 2 meters higher than this. I am glad though that now it is draining, so you can see how high it was before compared to now. It's lowered by about, let's see how high it got again. It got around 10 meters. Oh no, it got, hold on, oops. Yeah, I mean, it reached the 10-meter mark and then started to go down. So it's now at, whoops, sorry. It's now at the, okay, so it's lowered about a meter, so, I mean, that's still some progress. I was kind of curious what this thing was, because that wasn't there before. That might have just been the reflection. I think that's what that is. But yeah, I mean, that's what that amount of rain can do to some areas, and that's what some areas of Mozambique could be preparing for. I don't think it's going to be that bad in these areas, just because they have, like, they don't have as many residential areas, I guess. It's not like it's a big industrial area, kind of like Australia is in that area. Not as much urban areas. But yeah, still some really bad flooding could occur in these areas. We don't have live cameras, I don't think, anywhere here. Nope. Pulling up the radar thing here. Yeah, they're all just mostly clear conditions, looks like. Oh, nice. I think you can see the moon on this one. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, there are more thunderstorms headed for Momo, so they should be preparing for potential flooding over the next hour or two as this continues pushing west-northwestwards, mainly northwestwards. So we kind of had a new frame briefly, kind of glitching out. Yeah, these areas, fortunately, are moving kind of away from lands. Areas in I don't know what those islands are called again, my apologies. I think it's the Comoros, yeah, Comoros Islands, could get hit by a thunderstorm over here. Shouldn't really be too tornadic. I don't think the tornadic side is mainly on the southeast, but there isn't really anything going on here. Just be mainly concerned for these cells for a potential tornado, so like Aries and Momo should be just aware that that is a possibility. Uh, so I don't think it's made landfall yet. Sorry, my bad. Let me change that. I think it's going to be another 60 minutes. So here, I mean, the stream hasn't been doing too well, so I'll probably stop it within the next couple minutes. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'll stop it within the next like 90 seconds or so. So, basic rundown from systems that are least threatening to most threatening. We have Tropical Storm Ivoni. This is going to be it's a moderate tropical storm right now, and it is expected to move generally westwards before curving away out to sea. Shouldn't be a concern. We have what was Invest 90B headed towards Sri Lanka, southern India, and the Maldives. Just mainly a rainmaker, shouldn't be anything too concerning. The remnants of Alfred, they've kind of dissipated at this point, but they still are delivering heavy rainfall towards Brisbane and Logan City. Other than that, there's not really anything ongoing, besides this storm, of course. Last storm we have is Judy, which is expected to move further inland and impact areas of Mozambique, dumping mainly rainfall. And the next stream could be on Friday if it hits Madagascar as a Category 1. We'll see. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next storm. Goodbye.